This episode of Broken Bones and Bullshit is sponsored by Ozcan Rural and Outback Drovers Co. So Luke Higgins, welcome on.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Looking forward to it.
So how did the whole rodeo career start for yourself?
Well, I think the whole rodeo career started when I was really young, actually, and my dad probably get us up really early in the morning. We used to have All-Star, like, the old TV deal, and he used to get us up, and we used to watch the Calgary Stampede on the All-Star because that was, like, kind of the big thing back then, and he used to wake us up early, and that kind of, from a very young age, I would have been probably only 5 or 6 years old, and that kind of, I always liked rodeoing and used to buy magazines and stuff like that, and just was always, like, obviously read around agriculture and stuff and riding horses and stuff. It was very fitting for me to kind of wanting to go down that pathway. So I think that's probably where it really started, actually, yeah.
And your dad rodeoed or was just a farmer?
No, he was just he was a beef farmer. He ran cattle and drove in and worked for a few other local stations around home, and ran cattle and just, pretty much just a farmer and cattleman and stockman and dogman. Yeah, so he was just pretty much an agricultural farmer, yeah.
And what generation stockman would he be?
Your
grandfather ran cattle?
I'm the 5th generation stockman in our family. Yep. So he was the 4th. Yeah. Yeah. So it's obviously a long legacy of where we're from. It's a very long, old family that's ran cattle in the Victorian High Country for generations and generations. So yeah, that's our background.
The man from Snowy River.
Kind of, yeah, a little bit, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's where you learn a lot of all the stockmen and that from your father?
Well, I learned from an early age. Like my mum and dad, we drove cattle on the road and camping out and all that. So, we were, I was like 5 and 6, and my sisters were a lot older than me. Oh, a little bit older, not a lot, but we all had a pony each and a whip, and we went to helping them guys on the road pushing cattle, and I think that's probably where it started from. And then over the years of being out and about and having opportunities with different people, learning a lot along the way. So yeah, with other stockmen and dogmen and horsemen, and it just all kind of ties into rodeoing, I guess. And at the end of the day, yeah.
And so, what was the first head of stock you got on?
Like for myself?
Yeah,
I think it would have been probably about 2014. Started rearing potty calves for myself and trying to get a few about. Read a fella that I used to help a bit. He actually gave me 4 or 5 Hereford little steers, and I reared them, and I always have a heap of dogs around, and that one good dog got off and killed a lot of them, so I had to restart again. So that's probably my first lot of calves I've had, and that just built from there. So
awesome. Yep. And how many head of cattle are you running now?
Oh, so we've got about 100 cows and calves at the moment, and then probably about 40 odd trading steers.
Yeah, wow.
Yep. So, and then we're just obviously building at the moment, and trying to buy it back in a few, and we've sold a few, and bits and pieces, eh? Yep.
And you're not just based in the high country anymore?
No, we just recently got a farm up on the east coast, which is up near Bega, kind of. And just, that's a new thing that's just kind of come along. So, just started to run that place up there and put cows up there and move cattle around and bits and pieces and buy a few more and put them in there. So that's been a really good stepping stone for me, because obviously land's very hard to come by when you don't own a lot of it, you got to take opportunities wherever it is, So that's kind of been a really good opportunity for me, and jumped at that when that came along. So, yeah.
And with the rodeo, how old were you when you got on your first head of stock?
So, I think the first steer I ever actually got on at a rodeo, and me and a buddy of mine, we entered. I think actually my sister entered both of us at the Corryong Man from Snow River. Actually, it was and I would have been probably about 10, I think. And that was the first steer I ever got on properly at a rodeo in front of a crowd. So it was probably 10 years old when I first properly had the first one. So yeah.
And then how long did you do? You took it up from then onwards?
Yeah, so I just got the bug pretty much, and then kind of met a guy down home that kind of had a rodeo arena, and I really thought that was kind of badass, you know. And so I always used to bug him. Used to ring him every Wednesday. Actually, can I come over and ride some steers? And he used to run. We used to have a mob of about 10 steers, and he used to run about 3 or 4 times a day. And I used to be battered, bruised, and go back to school with marks and cuts all over me. So they all thought I was crazy, but my mum, and always supported it. And when I was young, and she was really good. So, and she's been good ever since. So, yeah.
It's funny how the mums think of it, like, because I used to like box and fight.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I started riding bulls, and I've been hurt a lot more riding bulls,
Yeah.
but my mum prefers the bulls over fighting. She
Yeah,
just
righto.
didn't like the hurting
Punching
another
shit out of each
man.
other. Yep.
Or
Yep.
fighting another. She just didn't like that.
Yep. Yep.
Like, she's like, it's not a sport she enjoyed watching. But
Yep.
she's like, we've grown up, we've got the farm, and
Mhm.
always been on horses and that,
Yep.
so she could understand the bull riding
Yeah.
more.
Yep.
That
A little bit more of a background to relate to it.
yeah,
For
yeah,
sure.
where
Yep.
she enjoys watching that a lot more than two men fight each other.
Yeah,
She
for sure.
doesn't have
And
a
you can
lot
kind of
of
understand that from
yeah,
a,
especially
from a mum's point of view. Yeah.
yeah.
Yep. Yep, for sure.
And so you're on the steers. Talk us through how you progressed to being bareback Australian champion.
Well, I think, well, Jaden Moulton obviously is the guy that I went and started with. He started with me when I was, about 10, 10 or 11, I think it would have been. And you know, we didn't just ride steers, we roped calves and roped everything, and kind of, you know, he slaved me away a little bit too. Don't get me wrong, a bit of free labor doesn't go astray for him. So he was really good. He pretty much, and he's still very close to me now, which is kind of cool. You know, he's obviously been day one for me. And then we you know, we rode steers and got going, and he took me a few rodeos and a few little bits and pieces where always buck steers out, and then kind of just started entering up pretty much at the rodeos. I didn't really get on too many bulls at home, to be honest, and a fella called Luke Davidson actually ran a bull riding school at his place, and that's kind of the first day that I really got on a bull. And he wasn't proper bull, don't get me wrong, but he was just a half-grown Mickey kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think, and that's it. Probably just snowballed from there, I guess, and progressed as far as getting on, second division bulls, and then winning a few second division rodeos on the bull riding, and I got on a few open. I didn't get on many open bulls, probably only about 10 or so. I won one open bull ride, and that was at Clare Rodeo in South Australia one time. And no, it was good. The bull riding didn't last too long.
Yeah.
It probably just
Did you enjoy the bull riding?
loved it. I still wish, like, I probably would still get on one actually, and I liked it a lot. It was probably a lot simpler than bareback riding in a way, because you could just have a rope and you just go after it. It was kind of good, in its own way. It was a bit more fun and it was cool. I liked bull riding a lot, but then I found bareback riding in 2015, and I had another great guy, another champion bareback rider in Australia, which is Lee Balker. You may have heard of him or not, but he won the title. I think it was, I could be wrong, but maybe '09 or something like that. And he got me riding bareback horses. And actually, when we started riding bareback horses, Ben Hall, which is probably a fellow you heard of around the rodeos and does a lot for rodeo community, which is actually the bareback riding director of Australia now. He's come pick me up at a place I used to work halfway in between Lee's and his place. And we used to go and get on bucking horses with Lee, and that's where it all started, actually. And them two fellas actually helped me on, and Lee taught us, both of us actually, a lot. And, Lee's a great guy, and you got to respect the guy. That anyone that gives you time of day when you're young is a good guy, yeah, for sure.
What made you choose a bareback riding to focus on more than the bulls? Because you said you enjoyed the bulls.
Yeah, I think, well, I remember Lee telling me one day, he said, I like bull riding and sailbronc riding because he used to do it all. But he loved bareback riding because you can stay consistent at it. And you can really master it well, because, it's a lot, like, I think it kind of favours in your court in a way because of how it's set up, the bareback rigging and all that. And you can kind of stay consistent at it. And I felt like that was something that I liked about it. And another reason, I guess, is I was always riding horses. So I like to ride horses and I can feel for horses and all that. And then if you got on a breaker, you can kind of relate that to the rodeo. So that's one thing I really liked, and maybe just stuck with that side of it because I think from the get go I could do that well, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
probably a little bit more naturally than what I thought I was at bull riding, if that makes sense. Yeah. So that's why I stuck with the bareback horses for sure. Yeah.
And you won an Australian title.
Yeah. So I won the Australian title in 22, which was it was a long road. We did every single rodeo in Australia pretty much, and went hard at it. And I was running a fence and contracting business at the stage, and I had like a fair few fellas on at the time, and it was a hectic year. I can tell you that it was very busy, and yeah, I don't know how many planes I took and how many miles. I think I put about 112,000 on my car that year, chasing rodeos, and used to drive to Queensland just on the drop of a hat for a rodeo, And it was a good year. I think winning the bareback title in 2022 was a good achievement. I think I deserved what I won. I think because I worked hard at it, and I was very, very dedicated at it. And I was actually not really thinking so much about the title, like about the actual gold buckle itself. I was probably chasing the pro tour, and I think I got to the stage where it was me and another fellow. We were close enough. Um, And then I stopped worrying about the titles and stopped worrying about the saddles and the buckles and all that. And I thought, well, I'm just going to ride bucking horses and I'm going to do it the best of my ability. And that's what I focused on. So every rodeo, I was going there to win, and I was actually just laying it out on the line. And whoever was seeing me that year knew that I was doing that because you could tell by the way I was riding, and I'd let it all hang out and just be a little bit wild and west. And I loved every minute of it. So that's kind of the focus turned from actually winning to actually doing your job. And I feel like that was probably a turning point for me, as far as actually winning it, because I just pushed that out of my mind about the gold buckles, about the saddles and all that stuff. I was just like, I'm actually going to go just to ride the bucking horse to what it is.
Yeah.
And I think that helped me. And then I went to the finals, and I wanted to win 4 rounds at the finals. That was my goal. And I was like, everyone's like, oh, just beat the bucking horses and beat every horse you get on. I said, yeah, I want to beat every horse I get on, but I want to beat every son of a gun that's here too.
Yeah.
I was very competitive in my own way. I wasn't cocky about it, I don't think, but I think in the way I thought was like, yeah, I'm going to beat every horse, but I want to beat everyone at the same time. Like I was very like, I'm going to win. So that's what I went and sat out to. And I think I won the first 3 rounds at the end of fire, and I think the last round, Dave also bet me by 2 or 3 points in the last round, and I got
Bummer.
second. Yeah, and I was like, well, you know what? I was like, well, hell, if he's gonna, that's the man. I want someone to beat me. That's him, because he's a great guy and rides bucking horses really well. So that was definitely in it. And I think after winning that, winning the Australian title, it was a funny feeling because like you work very hard for it, obviously, and it was an empty feeling. But and I was going to have a conversation with my girlfriend about it the other night, and I was just like, winning when you're at elite, at the top of your level in your country, obviously it wasn't in America, but in Australia, and then you win the Australian title and you get your saddle and get your buckle, and you think this is, but it's not what you think it was. It's not a bad feeling, but it's not. It's an empty feeling in a way because you're you're Australian title winner, but then everyone's talking about the next rodeo they're going to after behind the bucking shoots after you won this big deal, and it's just really another rodeo, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
you think that's that, and it was great, and it is what it is. But everyone, I remember going behind the shoots, and everyone's like, oh, where's your next show? Or we're going to this rodeo in 2 weeks' time, and you think,
People already moved on.
yeah,
and
moved
you
on,
haven't
and
even
they
left the event.
forgot about you being a champion, right? And the only way you can really remember is hanging that gold belt buckle on your belt and having that trophy saddle in your house. And I think that's probably a good lesson that I learnt by getting to that elite level. And I think that's important to always remember that it is, if you can, don't feel that pressure because it is just another bucking horse and it is just another rodeo in a way, and I think you have to go through that to understand that in a way,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what
And
I believe.
even if it was at the time, later in life, it probably gonna mean a lot more.
I think so. Yeah, I think it's like a bottle of wine, right? Gets better in time,
Yeah.
you know. And I think that's
Because once you've done it, no one can take it away from you.
no one can
That's
take it away from you. And I
Yeah.
think when I did win the title, I was very blessed because the guys that were there, like Fred Osborne and Dave and Brock and a few other great cowboys, they were obviously at their end of their career too, and but riding still well, you know, and I feel like that I didn't just go out there accidentally won it, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. Like
Yeah, you earned what you got.
I felt like I earned it and rode Bucking also with authority that certain time at the finals, and I felt like I deserved to win it, and not trying to blow my own trumpet or anything, but I think like on them 3 days that we rode head to head with the 9 or 10 bareback riders in Australia, the best of them, I feel like I rode the way I should have rode, and that was probably more of a better feeling than actually receiving the buckle and that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think, but looking back at it now, you know, and I was grateful for that time. I think that was a kind of a warming feeling for me because I think I deserved to win it. You know, I didn't just accidentally win it.
Yeah, everybody got hurt and then you won it.
For sure.
It wasn't like
exactly. It wasn't just because no one showed up or whatever, you know. And that was kind of cool, I think. You know? Yeah.
And we'll speak like you were speaking of before about how your mindset was going in. I've never seen someone zone in like you do at a rodeo. Like it's something different to watch. Like you follow your horse from the lead up all the way in, and like you're in a different planet.
Yeah,
I
I think
like you got your headphones in, and it's like
for
the
sure.
energy around you. It's like you're so just dialed in, and it's really like cool to watch. And I haven't seen you're a standout in Australia, definitely for like the way you just zone in.
Yeah, no,
Is
I
that
think
something you've always done? Or?
I think well, no, it isn't. I had to work on that. But it got to the stage where I wasn't winning. Like I probably earlier on, I wasn't doing good and I wasn't being successful. And I always think why. And I think the when I started being successful, I don't think I was any better than anybody else. Realistically, I just think I thought better. And I knew that I already won the rodeo before I went there. And there was a few cowboys that lived with me, and at the time, and Kelsey Pavlo was one of them, and he can even back me up. I had every single rodeo that I won that year when I won the title. I had it written down that I won it before I even went to it.
Wow.
And that is that I said it to Fred one day. It was actually at Kai Abram, and Gary come up to me and said, talk to me about it. I said, I don't think I'm any better than him. I just think better than him. And the way I am about it. And I go there to win, and I generally go there to win. And I go there to dominate the horse. Like I want to, it sounds bad, but I want to kill it. Yeah, like I get that zoned in. I'm just like, I want to do, like I want to savage it. You know what I mean? And I think that was the turning point from when I changed my mindset from winning and losing, for sure. Yeah. And probably, and don't get me wrong, there's been rodeos where I've been probably too in my mind about it, where it's not a bad thing, but like you get so wound up in wanting to savage one that you kind of forget to do your job in a way. I've obviously been guilty of that. So there's probably a fine line in between that. But I think you've got to think that you're winning. You go there to win it, but I believe you already won it before you go there. And I think that's an important thing. And that people might think that's a little bit arrogant or cocky, but you don't have to tell people that. You don't have to say, hey, I'm going to fucking win this rodeo before, but you can just think that in your mind. And I believe you've got to be really cocky in yourself, not out to the world, but I think in yourself, in your own head, tell yourself you are the best and there is no one that can beat you. And I think that's just a snowball effect too. And that's probably why you see me so zoned in. And so, like, I can't even hear nothing when I'm in that position, and I zone out. Like it's just silent, and I'm in my own world, and every jump's just I can look down at my feet, set them, and it boils me. Like I love it that much, Like it's addiction. It really is, yeah.
Because like when I first seen it, I was like, Wow, I hadn't seen nothing like
You
it.
probably thought I was on drugs or something.
Yeah, oh, yeah. You're just
Yeah.
with your horse, and everyone else is like chin wagging and
For
that,
sure, yep.
and you just follow your horse, and then you're sitting and you're like, you better buck.
Yeah.
You
yep.
better. You're talking to the horse like,
Yeah, for
feeding
sure.
that energy
Yep.
like.
And
Like
that, and
I'm ready. Like, I hope you are. Sort of that
for
sort
sure,
of feeling.
100%.
Like,
Yeah, like, and I'm gonna bring my A game, regardless of what day it is. I'll ride any bucking horse, any given day, any time, and that's the way I thought. That's the way I think. And I think I had a good. I don't know where I built this from, but I always said to myself, I don't have to go to a rodeo to talk to people. I don't have to go to a rodeo to party. I don't have to go to a rodeo to do anything. I go to a rodeo strictly just to ride bucking horse, and that's it. Like, I don't need to go to a rodeo for any other reason. So when I'm there, that's all I'm doing. That's all I'm thinking about. And I don't want to talk to people much. Like, and people might think I'm a little bit shy or whatever, but I'm just going there just for that. And I don't care about anything else. I don't want to know about what you did last week. In a way, like, I obviously have talking to people, but I go there just for that. And I think a lot of people lose track of what they're doing because they go to the rodeos for a social side of it and catching up with their friends, which is fine too, I guess. But I think on our level,
everyone does it for different
reasons. And I think for me, that was like, if I was gonna go out and have a beer with somebody, I'll just stay home and do it. I don't have to drive halfway across Australia to do that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So that was my mindset, and I think that really helped me.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And I found like once you've done your job, then you're happy to have a chat.
For sure. Yeah.
Like, but once you're there, you're not being arrogant, nothing. But you're there to do your job.
100%.
Once your job's done, then you're a bit more relaxed. And
Yep.
You
can have a play around and shake everyone's hand and see how everyone's been doing and what wrong, and maybe go help guys on or whatever and have a bit of fun. That's cool. I think just on for the build up and beforehand, I think it's game time and kind of don't confuse the two. For me, anyway. Yeah. On a personal level, that is. Like, you can do whatever you want if you're someone else.
Well, everybody's got a different way of approaching it.
For sure, man. Yeah.
Some things, like, I know a few fellas, they're like, I know me, I get out of my own way. So, like, I want to be helping people. I'm chatting the whole time and all that. Because if I did what you did, it doesn't work for me.
Yeah,
I get stiff
for sure.
and I overthink it.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't work for me. Like, I'm better off just pretending like I'm not getting on. I'm just here at a rodeo helping out.
Having
and
fun.
then I'll just jump on and just like, and that works for me. Same
and
as
credit
like,
to you, man.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not trying to say that what I do is right.
No, not at all. And
I
it's
just,
not coming across that way.
Yeah, I just feel like that's on a personal level. That's what I do. And credit to you, because you found what works for you, right, man? And I think that's important. And sometimes it's like, if someone's out there looking up to what I do or what you do, don't just rule that out. Do different things and try different things and see what works for you as an individual. And I think that's important. Like, if I do it, doesn't mean they have to do it, or that young guy has to be the way I am, because they might work for what you do, but they really want to be like me, or vice versa. And I think that's an open mind to trying different things and seeing what works for you. Yeah.
Ozcan Rural, providing Southwest Victoria with everything related custom sheep and cattle yards. Get in touch with the fellas via email ozcanrural@gmail.com. That's AUS, can like the one you drink, rural@gmail.com. Building fences straighter than your local politician. Outback Drover Co. Australian stockman wear. I've got one of their work shirts on right now and I love it. Go check out their new range of work and casual wear at outbackdroverco.com. Embrace the outback, wear the drover. It's the same that relates. We always speak about, like, obviously different techniques with riding bulls or riding bucking horses, and no one really talks about the lead up to it. Like,
yeah, for sure.
It's the same thing. There's
that's
different.
That's an art in itself.
Yeah,
isn't it? Yeah.
And it's the same with, like, when learning to ride bulls. Get a little bit off everyone, listen to everyone, and see what works for you. Try it. And, and do it. And it's the same with probably what we're speaking of, getting ready to do your job.
Mm-hmm.
Like watch other people, see how they approach getting
Yep.
on bucking horses or getting on bulls.
Yep.
Try that and see if that helps you. See
Yep.
if
See if it
and
works for you.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
for sure.
the same with actually riding. Like
I
it's a
think it's
technique in itself.
well. I think the riding, I think it's the build up and the mental before the actual riding is maybe just as important or more
Mm,
before you actually go to the rodeo, and knowing you got your shit right.
mm,
Because if you got your stuff right, you can just trust your stuff.
mm,
And I think actually no, that's not my words, but that's actually Stetson's Wright's words. He
mm,
says trust your stuff,
mm,
and it's true. Like if you know you got your bull rope set or your rigging right and your gloves right and everything back home. For me, like it was like making sure my shit's right at home. Like for me, it was like when I was flying out all the time. It was like make sure my dogs have got water and feed, and make sure the gates are all shut, and all my cattle and horses got water and fed, and that was kind of then I can push that out of my mind, and then go to a rodeo with a clean slate. And I think that's very important for me, and that's what helped me. I had all my mental game done that week, working on it all week before I even left that rodeo. I left to go to that rodeo, and I think that's what people forget. What your lifestyle is and how you live will show up in your bull riding or your bareback riding or your rodeo career, whatever that may be, team roping or calf roping or bull riding or whatever. And I think that's important, and people forget that because if you live in a very untidy life and you can't take responsibilities on your shoulder and deal with problems throughout the little problems, I mean, like just even doing your dishes or making your bed or making sure your shit's in order. If you can't do that at home, you won't be able to do that at rodeo. And people may disagree, but I don't think that's wrong. And I think it's very important lesson for any young kid going to start rodeo. And I think making sure your shit's in order, and maybe not so when you're more younger, when you move out of home and probably start
Doing your
life,
own
yeah,
deal.
start life on your own, and I think you can't put shit under the rug because it's always going to pop up somewhere, and it's probably a good chance it's going to pop up when you're about to get on a fucking bull. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I think it's important. So that's my motto and my attitude about that. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
how you said it was probably just as important, like the mental, like when you're getting on.
Mm-hmm.
That's why people have dry spells.
Yep.
Like their ability doesn't change
Mm-hmm.
when they just start this slump and then all
Yep.
of a sudden they can't ride a windy gate.
Yep.
That's all mental.
That is-
Has to be mental because physically you can't change that much in 7 days.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
then buck off 2 bulls, buck off 2 horses, and then it starts it, and then it continues.
Yep.
It's all here.
It's all exactly.
It's nothing to do with your ability, like physically.
And I find that
Unless there's
very,
injuries
very
involved.
interesting because I think that's a can of worms in itself. I really think that. And I was watching this video there 3 or 4 years ago, and I always remember it. It was like when they call it Hell Week through SEAL training and through the army and military and all that, and they make the men not sleep for 3 or 4 days, and then they'll start training them to shoot and fight, and then it becomes muscle memory to them because they're tired, and they train them when they're tired, and I think that's very important. Well, I always use that in rodeo. And then once you know how to ride a bucking horse, it's like riding a bike. You know how to do it. They know how to fight, but their mental might take over. And I feel like when you're tired, like for me, when I was tired, I always rode really well because I just let my body take over. My brain wasn't trying to outthink my feet
Yeah.
or my arms or my free arm or whatever it is, I was tired, so I just let it roll, and I feel like that was the same thing with rodeo for me. Like I really thought that, and I always remember that video saying, yeah, you'd start training them in the 4 or 5 days or whatever it is when they were tired, and it was muscle memory. So when your mind starts to creep in, maybe you've got to go back to your roots and actually train and be tired and then go to a rodeo when you don't feel like you're buzzing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and then your brain will just not override your muscle memory. Yeah, and that's just something that I actually really think it's true. Yeah, which is I don't know if it's right or wrong, but I think it helped for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can relate to that because it's probably not the right thing to do. But if I is feeling shitty or maybe a little bit hungover or something,
Yep.
I've always gone out and rode better.
Very well.
Because I'm just like, oh, I don't feel
Yeah,
good.
yeah. Feel upset if you're just driven 16 hours to get on one ball, you know? Yeah,
And
sure.
then I drove 18 hours or something and you're bugging and
Yep.
you just like, just get on, just let it hang.
Mm-hmm.
And then everything seems
Just
to
comes together.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I definitely know what you're talking about there. And I think that's probably a thing in Australia that some people, well, I noticed that a lot when I was in the States last year is when you're doing like 3 or 4 rodeos a weekend, and then it becomes like not numb, but a little bit. And then you can really just focus on just riding because you're getting on so many.
Mm.
And that was kind of a cool, uh, bit different for me, because you don't get that here. Like
Yeah,
you're
we
driving,
got one.
you're driving fucking 16 hours for one rodeo. You get on a horse, you either win and you drive home. But over there, you can drive 3 or 4 hours and do like 4 rodeos,
Mm.
and it's really cool because I think you can hone in on getting things right. Yep, and just getting on a lot was a big thing. I think mentally too. Yeah, and that was kind of cool to see that because obviously I have never witnessed it so much, like so professional, I guess, because that was probably where it was all at down in Texas. So yeah,
So you had the year 2022 when you won the Australian title.
Yep.
But you had a bit of success at the finals in 2021, didn't you?
Yes.
Set the Australian record.
Yeah, that's right. I think I won the first round with me and Fred split the first round on 21 finals, and then had a pretty good finals. I rode pretty well. I didn't win as much as I would like to, but I think that was just coming back out of COVID and it was all like pretty new again. And I was feeling pretty fresh and I really enjoyed that finals. It was good. They held it at Chilton and Alexandra that year. And that was kind of cool. So then in the last round, I had that. There was a young colt, Eddie Gill's horse, a little mare it was actually. And I think Jared might have won the second round on it. And it was good there, like when he got on it, but it wasn't like crazy good. But it was a good horse, like it was good. And I drew it in the last round, and I was like, "Oh, that's a good one to get," and I was pretty excited. I didn't know much about it, but it was just a new horse on the block, kind
What
of.
was the name of it?
Jewel, Wrangler Jewel, they call it, yeah. And it was a bucking horse of the year. I think maybe it might have been 2021 or 22, either. I think it might have been 22. I think the year after that. And yeah, it come out and it got it on straight from the gate, and I let him fly too, and I let it have it, and it stuck up underneath me and turned back to the right, and it all kind of just come together, and you didn't know much about it, so it was just kind of one of them ride jump for jump kind of thing. So and then I lit it up, and it turned it on too, and then that was the year that I set the record at the finals, and it still stands, I believe. Yeah.
How many points is that?
That was 88 points.
Yeah, wow.
So that was like the record. When I say that, it's just for the finals.
Yeah.
Like not
so
not
the
Australian. Yeah, not
yeah.
the Australian record. It's just the highest score at the national finals for the bareback riding. And I think, I can't remember who held it before that. I think it might have been Fred or Ben. I think. Yeah. So yeah, that was kind of cool, and that kind of lit a fire in my ass, to be honest, because I was like, I can do this. Like, I think COVID was kind of good because we were working so much and doing stupid things like working all night, all long, cutting wood and moving cows and fencing. Like, we were hauling ass, and we made a good bit of money in COVID. And then you had no outlet. So I think going back rodeoing was like a real good outlet again. It was kind of refreshed me, as you were talking about before, and then that's why I went real hard at it in 22. So yeah, it was probably a blessing in a way. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I found that COVID was horrible when it happened, but great for rodeo after it.
I think so, yeah.
Attendance is great. Like all
Now
the
it's
committees are
big,
making a bit of money now, and
it's really
breaking
changed it, I
records.
think, and I think this might sound stupid, but I think Yellowstone really had a lot to do with people coming out and just the normal town people and the city people, which is no discrimination against them, but when they don't understand the side of rodeoing or cowboying, and then they watch Yellowstone, all they want to do is go and see cowboys. And I think that's as a whole in the world has really made the cowboys starting to look like kings again. You know what I'm saying?
I think there's been a lot of it that's helped. There's Yellowstone. Zach Bryan become like mainstream popular. It's opened people to country music
for sure,
and then it's sort of
a snowball
perfect
effect.
timing and everything sort of pushed up from that.
For sure,
because I noticed because I work in Bendigo and I used to just go in town the way I'm dressed, sort of now, not with a hat, just a cap.
Yep.
And I'd get Brokeback Mountain and all
all the
this shit
bullshit.
all
Yeah,
the time.
yep.
And now you don't get it
No,
at all.
no.
You're a fucking king now.
Yeah, for sure. Like, and it's kind of cool.
Yeah,
You know,
it's
and I feel like.
we were cool before it was cool.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like that's just shed a light on the Cowboys a lot. That kind of, even the 1883 and all them things that Taylor Sheridan has done. I think it's really kind of put the spotlight back on the authentic Cowboys, and I think the world's are lacking that, and that's why they're so drawn to it. And I think that's boosted all what we've done or doing, I should say, and I think that's a pretty cool thing, and credit to them for that,
And I think it's like with how crazy the world has gotten, I think people are looking for that again.
Yep.
Like the cowboy way, like honesty, integrity,
Yep.
everything cowboy sort of stands for, like
for, yeah.
hard working,
Yep.
family unit.
For sure.
Like it's something that I think a lot of people like are lacking and missing, and I think that's what has drawn so many people back to.
Yep. Just that old way, and because over how many years, hundreds of years, Cowboys never really changed much, and they probably won't, because I don't think they can really change much, and I think that's what draws people nowadays, because authentic and they're real, you know what I mean? Like a dirty, rotten, stinking cowboy is kind of somewhat attractive to people that don't know nothing about it, and I think that's kind of cool. And I think for a different side of it, we can definitely use that to our advantage, like yourself doing this podcast, and if like to promote that in the real world is definitely in our favor now, more so than probably has ever been. I think that's kind of cool thing to see that opportunity.
Yeah, it's so different to any other sort of thing where like everyone in that scene works hard and does their deal, like running cattle, and like days go for as long as they need to go when you're doing a job. And where there's other people where they just want handouts and do all that, and we don't have that in rodeo. Not rodeo, but cowboy. And I think that's what people are attracted to, and that's why it has become.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's right. And I think, yeah, and the upper limits to the opportunities that probably has arisen to that, maybe some Cowboys may take that opportunity, maybe some don't. It's kind of just depending on what way you want to kind of focus on your life. But I feel like, a prime example is that Taylor Sheridan. Like, he's done some greatness, and he is a real cowboy. Like, he's got really good, well-bred cutting horses, and he owns the 4.6s and all that. And I don't know the guy personally, but just what he's done as a whole for the Western society, I think, or the Western cowboy, or whatever you want to put the word as. But I think that's kind of a neat thing to kind of sit back and look at it, for sure.
And you've done a bit of cutting horse training and breaking.
Yeah, so I've done a lot of horse work over the time. So yeah, it started off obviously with Jaden, just riding little shedders and roping and helping him, and he used to, rope stuff at his place, and we used to rope calves as well, and he trained me roping the dummy all the time, and be out there all the time roping the dummy. So I guess that just kind of follows in with that, and then I went with Max McTaggart. I moved up with him when I was about 12 or 13, I think it would have been, and he was like, he was great. He was like a very big part of my life. Max was, and I used to take horses up there, and we used to have a few young horses that we used to break in, and he was good because he taught me how to be tough, and he was a tough son of a gun too. And he used to just have a collar rope on some of them young colts, and no bridles, no anything on them, just jump on them, and they used to go crazy. And he liked me because I wouldn't give up. I'd get bucked off, and I wasn't very good at riding at that stage, and I used to get hammered, and get back on, and he liked that idea. So he really rammed it into me, and that was kind of good because it really showed me what he did and how he was brought up, and that rough, tough environment. And that was kind of the best thing that ever happened to me, I think. And Max taught me just more about life than probably cowboying, but just being like a cowboy lifestyle, don't get me wrong, but just being a gentleman and polite and respectful, but then also have the other side where you're a rough, tough son of a bitch. And he loved scrapping when he was younger, and he used to, always have the fighting stories, and and chasing girls around and all that kind of. And we used to, and it was funny because like I was young, so I used to ring him up and tell him about all that, and he used to laugh and he'd have a story to tell me, and he was always having a joke and doing and funny things, and and every morning he'd wake us up and yeah, no, he was good, and you always have a feed, and you would never know what you're eating there. So, like, you might eat the next door neighbour's rooster one morning, and then a bit of goat that they found down the granite the next, and he was well known for that, and all the boys he's had some great people like Corey and Holden and Troy and all them fellas that went through him, and Pete Kennedy and all the guys, good cutting Australians, they're all been through Max. And I think I was probably the last kid that ever went and had the opportunity to kind of get taught by Max before he passed. And me and him were very tight because he was good to me. And I had the opportunity to meet all them people on, along that way. Yeah. And he was really good. And he really showed me the way of being not just a rodeo cowboy, but riding horses. And I remember he always used to say to me, "There's never no weight on your shoulders ride cutting horses." And I was like, "Oh, I hate riding cutting horses." And I didn't want to ride cutting horses because I just wanted when they're bucking. I just wanted to ride when they were bucking, and I had no interest in it. And he sent me over to Pete Kennedy, and Pete and Sarah looked after me really well, and they worked me, but I was like just. And I wasn't there very long. I think I might have been there for a month or two. And I remember Max said, "You go and learn how to ride a cutting horse." So they sent me to Pete's, and you just kind of become a professional loafer when you work for them cutting horse trainers. But credit to Pete that he put up with my shit, and we, I remember, just riding a lot of horses with Pete, and it was good little bit of time. And Max was like, "You stay in there and ride them cutting horses. It's something to fall back on when you're busted like me, And I was like, "Oh, I just want to go rodeoing, I just want to get out of here." But no, Pete and Sarah were good, and I learned a bit off Pete, and that was kind of good. And he was good because he was a bit into his dogs as well. And we had a bit of fun going out to get a few cattle one day. And I thought, I didn't realize he was into his dogs much. Like, he had a few dogs there, and then we went and got some cattle out of this place. I think it might have been out near Hay, somewhere out in the middle of nowhere anyway. And I thought, oh, he's actually got good dogs, this fella, and he's probably a bit better of a hand than I probably thought he was at start. And then, got to know Pete pretty well, and he's still training cutting horses for a few clients, I think. And I actually haven't seen him for a while, but he's a good guy, yeah, really good fella, yeah. So yeah, that's where I kind of did a bit of cutting with him, yeah.
And the horse breaking and horses sort of got you out of a bit of a bind when you first got back from the States, didn't it?
Yeah, so for like last year I was in America, and then come home, and we had a drought. We had no water, and I was proper broke too, and I had to do something with it. I couldn't afford to pay all the leases where I was running all these cows, and I had cattle spread outside of breakfast, and I thought, what am I going to do? The cattle prices are shot to the shit, and they're not worth a fuck at the moment. And I was like, well, I can't really afford to keep pushing these leases and paying for all this stuff. And and then I was like, well, the only thing that I know is just putting them on the road. So, and that's what I'd done. And I had them on the road there a little bit shy of 4 months. And I was like full on, couldn't barely fuel my car up. And like, I was like full, like had my ass out, my jeans too. Like, got back from the States, and I think I only had like $1,000, and I had to do some shit too. Like, I had a lot of cows needed feeding, and I had no money. So put them on the road there, and I worked for a little bit beforehand. I was helping break colts for Darren Towns, which is a big name in the camp drafting society, and does a lot for the camp drafting, and has done a bit of challenging. And he used to rodeo back when he was younger too. And Darren actually, he come into my life when I was a bit younger too. I used to get on a few steers, and he had a buck and shoot at his place, and he taught me a bit when I was a bit younger too, actually. Him and his wife Mel been really good to me for a long time. They carted me around a little bit when I was young. I used to catch a ride here and there with them. But yeah, so I started back with Townsy and riding a few rough ones for him, and the old fella's getting a bit old, so I thought I'd better step in and get a few road for him before he gets busted up. So still doing a bit with him, and he sent me some horses when I was on the road, and that was the only bit of money I had coming in, and that got me out of a bind. So that was, credit to Townsy. He kind of saved my ass, and probably didn't really know what he was doing, but he saved me ass in a way. So that was kind of good. I think we had 7 or 8 horses at a time, and he sent me a few, and that kind of gave me a bit of money income. So
So you're just breaking them, then moving them on.
yeah, so I was going to Darren's place, getting on them when they were just like 2 or 3 rides, and then we'd take them on the road and then kind of make a bit of a workhorse out of them before they kind of went to the whatever the main was. I think they were mostly camp draft horses, really, but some were race horses too. And I hate race horses, but they become pretty good on the road because every day you got a job for them, so you leave them saddled up all day, and they're kind of just a tool more so than a novelty. And you have to have them because where we're living is steep and and thick bush, and it's all horse and dog work. So yeah.
Speaking of dogs, better check this dog out. So we'll take a little break.
Yeah.